luxury and off-road don't often go hand in hand, but Lexus is trying to do something different. They are reinventing luxury, they're reinventing off-road adventure. They're blending off-road adventure and luxury with the NX. Why the NX? Well, they are offering more for the NX with the new NX Overtrail. And in this review, I'm going to tell you all the things that you need to know about the new Lexus NX Overtrail. It is quite often that when you see a new model in a lineup, it is basically just paint, new suspension and maybe a few rims and details here and there. But that is not the case with the new Lexus NX Overtrail. And first of all, you can see the new unique paint. It's called Moon Desert. Apart from the already mentioned Moon Desert paint, you have blacked out details throughout the car. Of course, you see this in the front, but if you follow to the side, you have these blacked out side rear view mirrors. And if you go down here, you have blacked out 18-inch rims with off-road tires and a raised suspension. 200 millimeters of total ground clearance. And on top here, you have a blacked out roof rail, which houses this foiling surfboard. What do you think of this new Lexus NX Overtrail? This is not the standard option because it has these side stepping plates. But this Moon Desert, the black accents, definitely makes it pop in the NX lineup. But what do you think? Write to me in the comments. So nothing has really changed in the luggage compartment, but of course I need to show it to you. So it's 545 liters, both the plug-in hybrid and this regular hybrid. So luckily we have no loading lip. The wheel arches doesn't protrude that much into the car. It falls down in the 60-40 configuration. You know that I like 40-40-20 because of if you want to go skiing, which I guess that many people in Sweden will use this for. With the new Lexus NX Overtrail, you do get some changes to the inside as well. One of them is this khaki colored leather, and with the contrasting gray leather as well, it looks really decent. Another change is these metal, or not metal, but wood inserts. Looks really good and it contrasts really well. You do have the Mark Levinson sound system, which I'll talk about later. And this is a mid-size SUV, meaning that space in the back is important because people that have families and more than two people will use it here in the back. So I'm 187, I have okay amount of knee space. The rear here is quite soft, which is thankful. I have okay amount of foot space and an okay amount of lower thigh support. I do fit, but if you're taller than me, it will start to become quite cramped in here. Do have a nice panoramic sunroof though, that lets in a lot of light. It is about things being designed for you as a driver to be easily reachable, to be intuitive to use, and that is exactly the case for the Lexus NX. I talked about it previously. The changes though is, of course, as I talked about before, the khaki color and a new drive mode, which is coupled with the off-road capabilities of this car. But other than that, of course, you had the Mark Levinson I talked about before. Sounds really good. The wood inlays, the steering wheel, which is electrically operated, and you have the 14-inch infotainment system. Let's talk infotainment system and tech, because that's where Lexus has been a little bit behind, but let me explain. So this is the new 14-inch latest generation Lexus infotainment system. Looks decent enough. The navigation is a bit slow though, and we have experienced quite a bit of issues on this press trip. The infotainment system in general, quite easily to navigate. You do have your navigation, your sources, your phone, your settings. That's basically it. Nothing fancy, nothing special. You do have dials to control the temperature, and the climate is always there, which I really like. You also have controls to warm up the steering wheel and to cool and heat up the seats. So that's always nice to have, but I think they're just lacking behind a little bit. But now we're on some, you know, more demanding road with some undulations. It's gravel, it's testing the car suspension, and wow, so soft the way it absorbs the bumps. They've really succeeded in making this feel like a bigger car than it is. It makes you feel that it can handle more than it perhaps can, and I think that is part of the charm, right? It feels like a bigger car, it absorbs the bumps, it feels softer, it feels like a more grown-up car, it feels bigger than it actually is. So it's softer in its setup, and I think that makes it a bit not as exact when you drive it regularly, but here on some more demanding roads it really comes to its own here. A lot of people have houses located at places where you need a car that can handle some more rougher terrain than a regular road, and I think this suits that need very well, to be able to both be in the city, be stylish, be a Lexus, but also have a little bit of off-road credibility, because this is not just a style package. This is more. It's raised, the suspension, the chassis has been strengthened in a lot of different areas. The press material doesn't give credit where it's due. They've changed enough to make this unique enough and give it the character that it needs to stand out in its own segment and compare to the competition. Lexus has worked on making the cabin quieter. This is me doing a long shot. The improvements to this Lexus NX Overtrail will probably be implemented into the next facelift or new generation or next generation NX, especially since they are making it stiffer, more bonding, different strengthening areas on the chassis, and that costs money, and has actually improved the NX in that regard. It feels like a more mature car. The suspension is softer, and you do feel it when you drive on a road like I'm driving on right now. It can also have to do with the rims, because they are special or unique for this Overtrail. 18-inch, so it gives you more sidewall, and more sidewall means more shock absorption, a smoother ride. And this car is the full hybrid, meaning no plug-in hybrid, but the electric engine, the petrol engine, the four-wheel drive system, basically everything is the same as in the plug-in hybrid. The only change is the battery. And with the battery you get less space. And what do I mean by less space? Well, I talked about it previously. There's no less space in the rear luggage compartment, but with the plug-in hybrid you cannot get the Mark Levisin's highest spec sound system, because the bass is taken up by that big battery. The NX is not the biggest, it's not the smallest, it is the perfect middle-sized car, and that shows because this is Lexus' best-selling vehicle. Another thing that I feel is very important to mention is Lexus standardizing safety systems no matter what the spec is. If you go for a regular spec Lexus NX, this more higher spec Overtrail, the luxury, the F-Sport or whatever, you get a lot or almost every single safety feature. This is a CVT gearbox or eCVT or whatever you want to call it, which means that when you accelerate this car, you do get a very clear one frequency response. It is up there in the rev range, nothing really happens, and Lexus has just said we're gonna do this. Hats off to them, but if there's something that I should fault it for, it is actually that CVT gearbox. There would be such a difference in how the car behaves and feels if it would have a regular automatic gearbox instead of a CVT. Yes, it's effective. Yes, they have finely tuned it to an inch of its life basically, but it would increase the luxury level to not have to hear a 4-cylinder scream from the top of its lungs. I should mention the 4-wheel drive system. Not all-wheel drive at all. The petrol is powering only the front wheels. And then there's the electric engine that powers the rear wheels. And it will only power the rear wheels when necessary basically. Which means that you're basically driving a front-wheel drive car. You can only do so much with the existing platform that you have, and if you want something very dedicated off-road, Lexus, at least in Europe and especially in Sweden, doesn't offer anything really on the level compared to, for example, Toyota's new Land Cruiser. What are my final conclusions for this Lexus NX Overtrail? Well, of course, it is a slight update, but it's enough of an update for the Overtrail to be a staple in the NX segment. It is off-road worthy enough for you to take this car to a ski trip or to your summer house, which undoubtedly people will. The price though is quite expensive, especially for the plug-in hybrid. But if you want something that is rugged, has luxury and has the Lexus and Toyota reliability, Lexus NX Overtrail is definitely a car to consider.